Yo, yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett, uncensored on the internet, and welcome to part 3 of my travel vlog, Ollantaytambo. Ollantaytambo is, without doubt, probably the most incredible place that I've seen anywhere in the world. And it's completely different to those following me with my Tartarian interests, with the old style, old world cathedrals and so forth. We're going back to another era here, an era that archaeologists will tell you is the Inca period, that these megalithic polygonal structures were built by the Inca. If you've been following my travels through South America, though, you'll see I've shown some clear shots where there's Inca stonework side by side with this ancient builder stonework. And quite often the case is obvious that the Inca have done repair work on these structures that are far more older. Ollantaytambo is from this era, an era in his story that is not recognized and we know literally nothing about. So let's begin. So Ollantaytambo is nestled in the Sacred Valley, where I was staying with my friend Andy and his family for 2 weeks in Urubamba. The previous video was Pisac, so if you're in Urubamba, Pisac is this way. Ollantaytambo is about an equal distance in the other direction. And during my stay there, we did a couple of trips to Ollantaytambo. This first one, the photos taken, where we just went out for an afternoon. My friend Andy, his friend B, his son Jack, and Jack's half-brother from his mother's side. And we just went to look around some of the free access areas. The main archaeological site of Ollantaytambo is a fee. When you're there, you get a ticket for 2 days, and you can go to Pisac and Ollantaytambo, or Ollantaytambo and Pisac, or both twice. And in my case, I went to Pisac first, and as I mentioned in my previous video, I did injure my knee. So when we get to the archaeological main site of Ollantaytambo, I'll explain some details further there. But this is the town square, very central location in a lot of Latin American towns. Everything happens around the town square. And the actual town of Ollantaytambo itself has an incredible energy all of its own. I love this town. It's one of the options I'm considering at the moment for retirement, is living in Ollantaytambo. And I mentioned in my Cusco video, when I was staying in Cusco for that week, there's an energy about Cusco, and I think it may have something to do with some of the Tartarian old world structures that are still functioning. I did not eat for 4 days after arriving in Cusco, and it wasn't a conscious decision. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do a fast. I was just never hungry. And every now and then it would dawn on me, oh, I haven't eaten for a couple of days. And then the thought would go. But 4 days, I did not eat. And it wasn't until I left Cusco that suddenly I became hungry. So Ollantaytambo has a completely different energy. It's not that kind of energy. It's just an incredible, I don't even have, our language is inadequate to express the feeling. But it's a place I could easily just sit outside an outside table, drinking coffee, and spend the whole day just being there. An incredible, incredible place. It's another shot of the local town. It's quite common in the central square, the plaza, around across the road and all the way around the periphery of the square. Shops, cafes, restaurants, and yeah, beautiful little town. This shot I took actually while I was sitting at a cafe. This whole area was clouded, and just for like 2 minutes or something, this area cleared of cloud, and you can see here that the 2 mountains popping up. It was quite a sight, so I took a snap of that. This is actually my friend here. This is Andy, his friend B, and far left, his son Jack, and in the middle there, Jack's brother. And we're about to go through this gateway and access one of the free areas of ruins. So here we are walking along. this is the ruins we're going to be exploring. And you can see here from this stonework, this is Inca work. This is not old world. Um, Misshapen stones, the use of mortar. This is clear. This is indicative of Inca structure, but you can see they've incorporated some of the older stones in the work. But this is Inca level technology. Again, close up of the stones there. This is Inca work. I'm actually in this shot standing on one of these walls around here, looking down around. So that lentil along here, this is, I think, where I was standing, or maybe on that one there. Again, standing on the wall, walking along the wall. You see this lintel here. This is an old piece of stone, but generally small stones and mortar to hold them together. And another large lintel. And you can see the infill as well. So you have the rocks held together with mortar and a lot of infill in the center because they're quite thick in their construction. That's that lintel I was just pointing out. I'm about to walk over that onto the other side. My boot, just for a bit of size perspective of what we're looking at here. Classic terracing. Beautiful scenery though, and like the energy of this place is absolutely incredible. And these steps, I pointed these out in Pisac. These large rocks that are making the steps, they're actually like right in deep. So it's big long stone. Half of it is actually buried into the terracing, leaving a little stepway there for people to walk up on. I feel sorry for the cows up here. Again, we're talking at a considerably high altitude, about 2,700 meters, maybe close to maybe a little bit more. Something the size of a cow, these things must really struggle to breathe. They're not natural in this environment like the alpacas or the llamas. That's that mountain there. We've got a clearer shot now from where we are. We just saw the two peaks poking through the clouds at the cafe, and a close up on that. Just some large rocks lying around. We saw an example of one of these being used as a lintel, bridging across the walls. Another shot of it there. And you can see in here, the rock has quite a considerable iron content. Was this metal at some point? Was there a girder in there and the metal has just reduced to an oxide state? Or is it the rock itself have a high iron content within it? And you can tell from the surface, this is quite damaged. But at some point, this would have been quite a smooth machine-like finish. And you'll see better examples of that later on when we go up into Ollantaytambo proper. I just snapped this because it just looked interesting. These marks do not look natural. Someone might have been doing some kind of artwork or work on this stone. Shot off in the distance, the terracing, ancient buildings, structures, more recent ones. And the angry face. Throughout this video, you'll see lots of shots of this from different angles. Sometimes when you look at a geological formation, it looks like something from one angle, but then you move 10 meters to the left or the right and you can't see it, it's not there. But this angry face and that detail of the eye, the nose, the beard, this is clearly like a face, an angry face from any direction that you look at it from. And you can see here remnants of some ancient construction as well. Just a close-up there on the angry face. Okay, I got a little carried away with the angry face, clearly. This part here that you can see, this is the, I'm not in the archaeological site of Ollantaytambo. I'm just taking this shot from a distance. Clear levels of terracing up through there. And not clear in this photo from the resolution, but you'll see later on, this is old. the old pre-Inca advanced builder civilization. You can see the rocks here, polygonal shapes, no mortar holding those together. Far more recent construction along the path. And this whole mountainous region is dotted with pathways. You can see it along there. These you could spend a week here and not actually be able to walk all of these pathways. Another shot there of the terracing. And this is taken from the center of the town, so you can see the town areas around me there. Just a close up on that, more recent. This actually looks like something far older, where a modern building something, this has been built more modern times, perhaps incorporating the ruins of something far older, and again surrounded by the terracing with giant steps, if you like. Let's snap this. Just this rock looked very interesting. And the Quickie Mart. Ollantaytambo has a Quickie Mart. So the Simpson fans would know all about Quickie Mart. And yeah, Ollantaytambo, the general store is called Quickie Mart. So again, back from the center of town here, and just the incredible view of the mountains around. And you can, even from here, you can see pathways dotting all around. Like this part, this would be one hell of a hike. Like you would be exhausted. It would probably take you half a day just to get up there, because firstly the altitude, you'd be struggling to breathe and walk, and just the sheer elevation that you would be constantly moving. Your calves, your quads, they would be killing you by the time you got to the top of that. Just another shot there. And the markets so like most plazas or center squares of the town, full of markets, all sorts of things you can buy. And you can see this terracing in the background here. This is Inca work with the terracing. And you can see like the steps going up to the more advanced old builder technology. But the towns like this, just full of little market stalls. And again, there's the angry face, just from a little further out in the hills around, and these are the markets. Some of the interesting things you can find in the market store. Yeah, you can leave that to your own view, but this, you've got little skulls here, obviously the phallic symbols, and Incan. This type thing here is very, very familiar in markets. You'll see a lot of these axe type Incan technology things. Another shot of the hills and the angry face. But this is clearly artificial. This is not a natural formation. No, the eye, the nose, the mouth, the beard, very deliberate. And the surrounding hills, like you can see, like the terracing, like every part of the ground was terraced for farming purposes or other purposes that we don't know about, and we assume to be farming purposes. Bit of a mixture here in technology. So you see with this stonework, it's the lesser quality than the old world builders, but not incorporating mortar in a lot of the work there. So we've got different levels. Like here, this is old ancient builder work here. So whether this was completely demolished by whatever means, and this is repair work, or whether it's later additions, you can see clearly the two levels of technology in the construction of the ancient builders and the Inca time period, or possibly even something in between that also we don't know anything about. The waterworks, as I mentioned in the Pisac one, these things have been working, bringing water down from the mountains for eons, and to this day are still working. And the edges, even though the footpath here is like the cobblestone type thing, the stonework lining the waterways is much more older than the modern footpath areas. You can see some people up here. This is a close, like a zoom in shot. This is like an incredible area. I took this one here because of this rock. I don't know what's holding it in place, but this rock is just sitting there and apparently has been as long as people can remember. Walking around at the ground level of the Ollantaytambo sites. So this is, I should mention, this is the second time now I've actually gone by myself to actually explore Ollantaytambo itself, rather than just popping in to the free areas for a coffee and a day outing. Here, clearly the ancient builder technology construction and the more recent, less advanced construction. So the further back you go, the more advanced the technologies and the building style constructions. This way, the waterway, like I was showing you before, but this one is covered. This part's broken, so you can actually see down into the canal, like mini canals, if you like, that run all through this place. And I believe that this waterway level construction is, again, older than this modern brickwork area. This is very common in these areas, like just steps and more steps. And again, at the altitude, it's quite a feat. This looks like at some point it was a waterway running along that's dried up since. This is an interesting piece here. These nodules sticking out, you'll see these all through Cusco city proper. And this let's just get a close up on that, I think. So another shot. And a little bit of a face happening here. So these nodules, as I mentioned, you'll see them all through the Cusco walls within the city proper, leading credence to the theory that these megalithic blocks were artificially created, like maybe some sort of sandbag technique where they had some liquid that they made that solidified, because this is not quarry cut. And along here, like this type of stonework could be like, but with some definitely not a copper or bronze chisel and hammer, but where the large pieces where these nodules stick out, this is part of the rock. It's not something that's been stuck in or buried in. When they've leveled, smoothed, cut, manufactured, whatever, this rock, these nodules have deliberately been left on. So whether they supported something that went on, who knows, maybe this was all covered in gold at some point that was stolen by the conquistadors in their time, but clearly a deliberate action to have these nodules as part of the work. And just the smoothness, even when you consider how old and damaged this is with the rock moss, I can't remember the actual name of the correct geological term, but the way that this is cut in, absolutely incredible. Either some machine level technology used to do this, or they were shaped when the rock was in a malleable state. More steps going up. Just a close up of that one we looked at before. The waterways, waterworks, like the water features are just incorporated into the building. And looking at the level, you'll see the technology of the building construction a little bit later, that a lot of this stonework has probably been built around the existing waterways or water features. All of this pathway here, you can see the water is actually running under all of this construction. So clearly manufactured, and for this to all be underneath this level of work here indicates that this was created long before this was. So this footpath now, underneath that, all that waterway is running along there. Some shots here of the background, the rocks, and just these pillars, if you like. Again, if you've ever watched any of John Levi's videos, if you don't know John Levi, I'll put a link below. He covers a lot of areas of evidence that at some point this whole thing was actually a building and through some intense level of cataclysmic event, whether natural or unnatural, rock or construction, whether it's this concrete form that they use or whether it was stone cut at some point, this building has just been obliterated to the point that it's actually not recognizable anymore as a building. But yet you can see here inserts like that crystal machine smoothed finish that we looked at earlier. This was probably like that at some point in time, but just the level of destruction that happened here has reduced it to something else. But you can actually see some remnants of steps there, and you'll see some much better examples of that later on too. This is a close-up of that, and you can see like the in cuts here, just like the really smooth ones we looked at earlier, but having copped some massive plasma heat type event that's reduced it to what you see here, where it's indistinguishable now from just you'd look at this and you just think it's a rock and maybe someone's cut something into it at some point in time, but this at some point was probably a massive building that's just unrecognizable as a building now. Again, you can see no one's going to go into a mountainside and just look how smooth it is, and because it's overhung, now this might have been protected or spared the cataclysmic event that just like wrecked everything around it. And you can see up in here, this is, again, it's totally smooth inset. This could have been a window or a doorway or some point, and it's just melted into oblivion. And just a zoomed out shot of that, you can see a lot of the stuff. This is completely unnatural. This was something far better than what it is now at some point. And you can just see like layers of construction. These might have been monolithic slabs, stonework at some point, and it's just not recognizable anymore. More modern level construction, the trapezoid shape, reminiscent of the ancient builder technology. Another shot of that one there. This terracing just wedged in here that got suddenly, there's a doorway there. Whether there was a landslide, things fell in, like we could speculate forever at the possibilities of what's happened here. But yeah, I believe that this entire structure at some point was a manufactured building. I was quite highly confident of that. Just to zoom in on the door, bit of cave-in activity on the inside of that there. Hole going in. Some people might call that a cave, but again, it could have been a pocket of something spared the cataclysmic event. And again, this rock formation, if you like, reminiscent of the polygonal megalithic blocks that you see in the old world building construction, just obliterated, melted, whatever, to the point now it's not recognizable as a building. And a close up on that there. More examples. We'll see some closer shots of this, but just wedged in the middle of this rock, this little pockets, imagine a plasma heat exchange event of some kind, whether natural or unnatural. The angle that it came from or whatever, just little pockets, little areas that have been spared. Because this is not just built or dumped in later on. You can see this at some point is fitted very clearly in with its surrounding, and it might have been protected by a further outlying region. And at some point, this whole, what appears to simply be a mountain, may have looked all like this at some point in time. You can even see the beveling. I think there's a zoom up coming in. Here we go. Machine precision beveling in this rock and see how it fits in nice there, and here it fits in nicely as well into the rock outcrop. So yeah, this is probably what this whole thing looks like at some point in the past. Steps. So here, this is just to zoom in on that massive rock formation, as geologists would have us believe. And you can see here like levels of construction layers, and just some steps, just starting nowhere, finishing nowhere, just not quite as obliterated as around, leading to, again, my theory, my speculation, my opinion, that this at some point was a massive, massive building. And again, you can see here, up here, the smooth machine level construction technology of this, and just the melted obliteration around it. More steps, just starting nowhere, finishing nowhere. Old world blocks. Now, I don't know if these have just been banged together locally as part of the area. There's some more of that stone beveling. So this is just like, someone's built something out of Lego and someone's just come on, kicked it, kid with the tantrums, kicked his city over. It's just these blocks just lying around everywhere. Some steps here, or maybe just these pieces have been piled up, but definitely steps there on this. And you can see here that the smooth part up here, another little pocket that's been spared the obliteration of everything around it. Steps. This was interesting too. I don't know what's happened. This like at some point may have been perfectly level. It's been heated to a point where it's actually just started to sag. And then so what happened, it melted, started to sag, and it's hardened again. So leading to the plasma theory that it was like a moment of a hit, like a plasma hit. And as quick as it happened, it started to cool straight after. So just a bit of dripping and melting of the construction, and it's just formed in that state. And again, look at the symmetry here, reminiscent of the construction. It just looks like rock from a distance, but when you really look closely at it, you can see the building, the slabs, the blocks that were once fitted together to form this clearly artificial construction. Again, like just all this mess around, and then just a little pocket here. And you can see the upper side of that that's been spared. That's perfectly smooth there. Was there something on here that's fallen off, slid off? And you can see that machine precision, smooth work. Again, I believe this at some point in time, this whole, what appears to be just mountainous region, it probably all looked like this at some point in time. You can see like even one of those nodules that I pointed out earlier. But look how smooth it is inside, where it's been spared the heat and the melting that the rest of it was not. And even still, even in the rough parts, you can still see remnants of blocks that have just melted and become misshapen from sheer heat events. And same here. These were at some point clearly blocks that were all used as construction material. Another example of the waterways. And yeah, just this rock face, this part of the mountain, I believe to have been a building, and then his more recent Inca level technology buildings around it. Combination here, see these perfectly fitted non-mortar blocks, and the later, less advanced technology that's been built around it. I'd imagine this leeway here would have been a water feature at some point in time as well. You can see water would have come down here into like a basin or something, and then flowed out here into what is a basin. Hopefully there's a shot here that will show that. Yeah, so it comes down into a basin. So this was clearly a water feature. Look at the staining here as well. This was a water feature at some point in time in the past, the very remote past. And from a totally different angle here, again, the angry face, and zoom in there on the angry face. Old world, old builder technology blocks, the devastated mega building. Close up here on some of the beveling, you can see that the level of technology involved to do this into this granite rock is just absolutely beyond, completely beyond the copper, bronze level of technology that the people had, that this level of construction is attributed to. Well beyond it. I mean, in the hardness scale, you could not do this in 100 years with bronze or copper. The bronze and copper will just obliterate long before this rock will. Angry face again. I will admit I did get a bit carried away with the angry face. More examples of pockets of salvation amongst the devastation. And up in the distance there, within the site of up at the top of Ollantaytambo there, old world, old builder level technology, and eventually this level of technology. So I would assume that this is repair work, but something clearly going on here. This is machine level technology construction to have something like this. And as I keep saying, I'm pretty sure all of this rock formation at some point looked just like this before it was devastated by some plasma type event. One of the water features. And we're still at ground level too, by the way, over Ollantaytambo. Because of injuring my knee at Pisac. Oh, here we go. Look at again, the beveling that's gone into this water feature here. And this, where the water's coming from, this just continues underground through all of this terrain and still functioning today. Absolutely amazing, incredible. Just walking over a little bridge that's going over a water feature. That might have been the bridge there, or this could be another bridge that I'm standing on to take this photo. I can't remember. And again, the water feature, this just disappears underneath this more recent construction here. Now this is looking up at, as you can see, all of the steps. Because it injured my knee, I could not actually go up the steps on this trip. I was actually, even walking around the ground level, I was in a considerable amount of pain on this day. But as I pointed out in the Cusco one, that feature I found with the T-shape, I really want to point out what I mentioned then, how that block, which was used in the foundational base level construction of the cathedral, came from this ancient site. So what I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to show you some photos from my original trip in 2015, where I was up here where all these people, this is a zoom in, where all these people are, because all of the photos that you've seen so far I've taken from ground level, from the distance, and with some zoom in shots. But up the top where that I'm mentioning the old, the ancient builder technology, I will show you some photos from my original trip here in 2015. And again, the level of destruction of what happened here is still not able to erase the level of technology involved to make something like that in the first place. And again here, not quite obliterated into what appears to be a natural rock formation, but like halfway in between. Some old slabs just lying around. Like I said, just the Lego set kicked over, and just these blocks are just scattered all over the place in this region. There's an example here, the level of technology to produce this. This is smooth as, like, you can just run your hand along. It is smooth. It looks prickly here in the photo with the resolution, but this is the natural pattern of the rock. But it is smooth to the touch. It's another shot of that there. And like some of these blocks clearly just placed there for touristic value. Look at this slab here. Absolutely amazing. Clearly part of something else. Like this, whether it fitted in or it had some additional feature that might have been metallic and is just gone, because metal really doesn't last very long. If this was like, had iron or other form of metal, this would have been gone within 100 or 200 years, and all that's left is the stone skeleton, if you like. But again, clearly performing some kind of function other than artistic or surface level cosmetic. This was clearly performing some kind of function and what it was originally part of. Machine parts, essentially. These look like machine parts of a technology that we just don't understand today. Again, in the rock face, evidence of what I'm saying. At some point, this was actually a building. This was a massive, massive building. More just scattered blocks lying around. Look at the edges on this. Incredible. Yeah, there's a better shot of that. A part of something else that's just not there anymore. Just a little part of it has survived some of the surrounding shots. And back at the town square, one of the local residents. This is an alpaca as opposed to a llama. Another random shot here thrown in of stairs. Like they are clearly stairs, just in the middle of starting nowhere, going nowhere. So what's all the way around this is part of a structure. Here we go. This is the shot that I took of the cathedral in Cusco. I wanted to bring to your attention this T-shape. As I mentioned in the video, when these two blocks, this would have been joined together with another block that would have had a facing T, and then metal would have been poured into the T's on the two blocks to actually hold them together. And in the event of earthquakes or something, that gives a little bit of leeway in there as well. But what I mentioned in that video, this is quite a small block in the foundation of this cathedral, but I believe this to have been quarried from a larger block that would have come from that ancient site in Ollantaytambo. So I took this at the cathedral in the city of Cusco, and I mentioned then that I would show you what I'm talking about. So what you're going to see from now on, these are photos of the upper section that I took in my original trip here in 2015. Looking down at the village, the town. So this wall along here, this marks the edge of the archaeological site. So this is like the way in, I think, down here. This is the ticket office where you come in to look at the site proper. And I'm at the top. I've come up some of this terracing or giant steps to take these photos. Again, look at megalithic polygonal construction, and you see the nodules deliberately placed in this stonework. Now look how smooth the finish is. And again, something here that we're not seeing anymore that used to be part of that. The nodules. Okay, so when they machine finished, when this rock was smoothed out, this was deliberately left here. So again, obviously performing some kind of purpose to do that. Smooth, smooth, smooth machine technology level finish. That's just showing down. And it might look a little bit bumpy or something in the picture. This is just the natural state of the granite. You run your hand along here. There's no jagged. You're not going to get cut. It is smooth as. Again, a block just lying there, come from somewhere else. It's just left there, probably too big for that for people even today to move it. So they've just left it there where it's sitting. Megalithic block, more recent infill or repair work done on the site. I mean, these blocks are just huge. Okay, look at the nodule left in here on this smooth work, obviously deliberate. So obviously performing some kind of function. So up here, this is the what they call the Sun Temple at the top of the site. And these inlay blocks in between the megalithic blocks here, this could have been featuring some sort of natural protection for earthquake or something like that, so that there's a little bit of give if these blocks were to shake from some kind of cataclysmic event. There I am in 2015, looking much younger than I do today. There's the big blocks with the inlets in between. And again, like, just why are these blocks just sitting there? Were they part of something else that's just not there anymore? We don't know. His story does not account. Okay, so here we are. This is the T. So you can see here the liquid metal would have been poured into this here, and there would have been literally another block the same with the T on the other side. So it would have actually formed like two T's with a line going across, and it would have been like a brace to hold them together. Deliberate nodules on these megalithic blocks here, and just smooth as surface. So here's on one of those blocks, you can see the T and how it goes right to the edge. So it would have joined with another block. There we go, it's a better shot. So you see the sheer size of these blocks. The actual block used in the foundational level of the construction of the cathedral would have been quarried, I would say, cut in more recent times from one of these megalithic blocks. And the fact that that T block is in the base foundational level of the cathedral, this means that the actual cathedral itself was constructed on top of the base foundational level with this ancient building block. How old is this that the cathedral was built on top of this? And very clear example here of the nodules on the megalithic blocks. Very, very clear in this one. And you can see the large blocks, no mortar, fitting perfectly together, and these nodules that clearly performing some kind of function that we just don't know anything about today. Were they holding something in place? Was something mounted on those? Whether they fit together with something else? We just don't know. Clear example of the polygonal blocks that you'll see all throughout Cusco, and the alcoves. These trapezoid-shaped alcoves you will see everywhere. Like here's a whole wall of them. And the acoustics within these is pretty amazing too. There's a photo coming up shortly I'll show you. We actually tested the acoustics of these. Here we are. So we're all in here, we've got our head and we're just going like, oh, inside these things. And it was the sound acoustic level within these blocks is mind-blowing. So maybe that had something to do with the original feature, don't know. But that is it for my Ollantaytambo segment of my travel vlog. I hope you have enjoyed it. If there are any photos that you can see in here that you would like a copy of, drop a comment below. Give me the time index on the video where the photo appears, and I will reply with a high resolution photo that you can download for yourself, or alternatively hit me up on Discord, just Boba Fett, same as my username, and I will reply with the photos for you too. Thanks for joining me, and remember the next part that comes out, I should mention, will be Lebanon in Tolima, Colombia, where I stayed out on a farm with Eco Instant. Stayed with him and his lovely wife Laetus for 2 weeks, and lots of great photos from the middle of the jungle in the mountains of Colombia. And also every Friday, Splinterlands 101. If you caught the last episode last Friday, it was with Damore Demeria. We got into a great conversation. If you like diving down a rabbit hole, you will want to watch that episode with Damore. But every Friday, myself, Matt Clark, and Geotrix, three Aussies, chatting it up, all things Splinterlands with that classic Aussie banter. Sometimes, as I mentioned, we have guests. Sometimes we do some live battling with the challenge feature, but it's always fun, so do check that as well. Thanks for watching. I'm Boba Fett. Peace out.